Good evening, everyone. We welcome you all to another of our Better Investing Online Tools tutorials. Our webinar tonight is all about how to find great stock ideas from the Better Investing website. This includes the tutorial piece, where we're going to show you how to screen for stocks using the online tools, as well as other stock ideas in multiple areas of the BI website. My name is Susie Artsberger, and I'm the product manager for our online stock tools. I'm joined by Ann Kunias, who is our senior manager of education programs. She's going to help answer questions or ask me questions live, and we have a couple of other great volunteer helpers in the background. This is going to be our agenda for tonight. When we do events, we find there's always a huge amount of interest in stock ideas. If you're a Plus member, you'll have access to a number of stock ideas, a couple of other stock ideas over the core member, but we'll go through that. The first place we're going to start is the stock screener in our tools. And then we'll cover the ticker heat map, which is available to our Plus members. After that, we'll review our First Cut newsletter. Every 2 weeks comes out with some great stock ideas. And then our Ticker Talk webinar program, which has the 5 in 5 segment. If you haven't been to a Ticker Talk program, you are missing something great. You need to go. The weekly stock screen in our Better Investing weekly email also gives some pre-selected great ideas. And the Better Investing magazine with the stock to study and the undervalued feature, as well as some most active stocks inside the magazine, is another great source. On the website, we have a most active stocks list that's updated continuously that we're going to show you how to find as well. So lots of great ideas here. In the handout section of the GoToWebinar control panel is a handout that we call the Screening Quick Start Guide. And that will go over and give you, it's a takeaway for all these areas that we're going to visit. So be sure and download that. If you have questions as we go along, or if you need to see something repeated, that's perfectly fine. Please let us know through the chat or question panel, and we'll have it. Ann will bring that up and we'll go over it again. As we go along here, you are going to see stocks tonight. This is not a maybe, this is a definite. Don't consider these as go out and buy stock tips. They are examples of how to get great stock ideas that are up to the minute, but you still need to do your own research. You may see other websites as examples. I think there might be one or two. If we get to there at the end, don't fret if you don't see them. Most everything we're going to look at tonight is Better Investing websites. If you do ever see anything else in a Better Investing webinar, don't consider it immediately endorsed. They should be considered as examples only. And again, I'll repeat, always do your own research. This session will be recorded for future use, so it will be posted on YouTube. If you have registered for this live event, which if you're attending tonight, you obviously have, you will receive an email follow-up with a link to the recording. If you have to leave during the middle or whatever, don't worry. You'll be able to get that link very easily. So I'm going to start out with a few slides here that are going to detail the screening portion of our tools as well as the ticker heat map. It's worth getting a blown-up view of that side of the world. So this is a picture of our screening tool in the core SSG. This is what you would have access to if you are a core member. Now we have many tutorials about our online stock tools, and this is the one that covers how to use this particular tab, which is highlighted in this green with the magnifying glass. Other tutorials tell you about other parts of the tools. So when you are in the tools, you can get access to the various functionality on the left. And the screening part is really more about screening and stock ideas. If you mouse over it live, it'll say stock ideas, and I'll show you that when we go live. Look for that magnifying glass. let me show you the general overview of the screen now. In the core view, we have two sections. Basically, we have some predefined screens here on the right. There are two predefined screens for core users. SSG Plus has a few more options. I'll show you that in a minute. And then on the left, we have a little bit more involved. It's not too complex, but a little bit more involved way of setting up your own screen. You can screen by sales and earnings growth rate, small, medium, and large company, and our newest criteria here, which is about traded exchanges. So most of our users are going to be buying stocks on U.S. exchanges, so it defaults to showing you just stocks that trade on U.S. exchanges. We do have an option if you want to see all covered stocks, which will include the Toronto Stock Exchange and Venture Exchanges for our Canadian users. So that is our newest criteria there. All in, Core SSG has 5 criteria to choose from. And then at the bottom here, you'll see the results of your screen. We'll get into that a little bit more when I show you the plus screen. So that's just the general layout of screening. We're going to see SSG Plus, and then we'll show it to you live, but just to acclimate you to the various areas. Now the SSG Plus screen is a little bit different. It's got a few more elements. The first thing you're going to see is that there are 3 columns here. So you have search criteria, which has more search items. You have predefined screens in the center here. Instead of 2, there's 5 predefined screens. Our newest one here is the roster of quality, which is a predefined screen from our sister company, iClub. And you can see what's in it, or we'll be able to see what's in it when we go and click through there in the live tool. So just pointing out what the newest feature there is. SSG Plus has 9 criteria, and the newest 2 are a valuation metric, which is the PE divided by growth rate, and again that traded exchange criteria for US or Canadian or all. Additionally, SSG Plus users have access to the ticker heat map, which is a way of showing the more popular stocks being studied in the community. We're going to talk about that after we next, but first let's finish talking about what we can do with the results area. Once you have a set of results, you see those results show up at the bottom. And you have a couple of options. You have 2 blue buttons that you can click. The one on the left is for open, and the one on the right is for previewing the study. Well, open just means start a study. Previewing means I want to get an idea of what this company might look like in the stock selection guide without actually having to open up the study or stock selection guide. So if I clicked down here to that preview stock, up would pop a pop-up that shows me the data for the company. We'll see that quick little graph with sales, earnings, and price. And if you're new to our methodology, then I'll give you a very general but powerful tenet that we have, which is we want to see sales and earnings moving together. So sales is the top line here, earnings is the blue line. You want to see them moving up together and growing. You want to see price following, meaning the market is valuing the fact that this company is making profits or earnings. And our mantra here is we want things to be as up, straight, and parallel as is reasonable. Almost every company has doesn't follow that exactly, but here we have a pretty good example of up, straight, and parallel. So that's what we're looking for here in our quick view. And you'll get that again by clicking on the preview. Once you have a list of results at the bottom, you can move forwards and backwards by using these forwards and backwards buttons. And you'll get to just cycle through each of the results and see what the little mini sales earnings price graph looks like. Then I said we'd talk quickly about the ticker heat map. So before we get into it live, let me explain what's going on here. The ticker heat map, let me reiterate again, is only available to SSG Plus users. It's this colorful chart that comes up. This slide was actually pulled today, so we can talk about what it would look like if you opened it today. And what it is are the top 100 tickers represented by 100 little boxes. Now those are the top 100 tickers by popularity created through the online stock selection guide tools, Core Plus, within the last 90 days. So it's very current. The tickers are grouped together by sectors. And in this case, out of 11 sectors, we have 8 represented. We're missing a few here. Things like real estate, materials are generally missing because they're not typically growth companies. So we're not seeing that companies out of those sectors are the most popular. These typically are, and it's kind of interesting because the last time we ran this webinar, technology was the largest box, and this time it's consumer cyclical. So there are 100 little boxes here. The size of the box represents how many studies were created in the last 90 days. So Apple looks like it is the most popular company to be opened in the online stock selection guide. Gilead looks very popular also. Still big, you know, because it's in the top 100, but less popular. Let's look for one of the smaller boxes, maybe something like Schlumberger or SJM, MasterCard, MA. They have smaller boxes, so that just gives you a very nice visual that they are a little bit less popular than an Apple, if you will. And then we have colors. Colors are another visual representation of the potential favorability or investment return, with dark green being the most favorable. Let's talk about that. Box size is relative to the number of studies. We talked about that. Box color. Dark green is the most favorable. This is the way it works. There are always all of these 10 colors, from dark green to dark red. Dark green and green are the more favorable returns, and red are the less favorable returns. It doesn't mean that greens are always buys, and it doesn't mean that reds are always sells. Not at all. We just have an equal distribution amongst those 100 companies. All colors will be present, so something on that list is going to be dark red, and it's just a ranking system. So I hope that makes sense to you. It could be, let's pretend we're in an extreme bull market. So we're in a bull market now, but let's pretend it's just wildly extreme. You're still going to have stocks that are red. You're still going to have stocks that are green, so they're just going to be more favorable. The green ones are going to have, theoretically, a better return than the red ones. That's all that means. So again, just a visual idea. Then there's one more component that we need to take a look at, and that is the fact that if you hover your mouse over one of these boxes, you will get a black box that pops up that gives you more information. It tells you a little more about the company. So we see the ticker here, but you'll find out that GNTX is Gentex. It's in the consumer cyclical. Well, I would hope so, because that's how it's grouped. It's in the auto parts industry. Historically, it's had these levels of growth rate over those last 10 data points, or 9 periods. And this is today's data. So as of today, we've had 604 studies open in the last 90 days. That's pretty powerful. I mean, that speaks to how many people are using these tools and providing input to this kind of data. Then finally, you can actually click directly on the box to open a study if you find something intriguing right there. So that's the last thing I wanted to point out right here where we're at the ticker heat map. So Anne, before we move on, are there any questions brewing about the ticker heat map that we need to be aware of?
Not really, Susie. Everything is handled at this time, so why don't we just jump in live and see what else comes up.
Okay, well, I'm going to switch over to my browser and check that that's what our audience is seeing here. Yes. And I have already logged in. You can see my name up here, Susie Ertzberger. I'm going to show you how to get to the tools. So that's first up. And generally people get to our online tools by going to this green area on the home page. And we have a couple of options here. You can enter a ticker directly. Like if I wanted to study Gilead, I would put GILD here and then click on Go. I can go to My Studies. I can research a basic company data page. I can compare stocks. To get to our stock ideas, I'm going to go through My Studies. I clicked on that blue box for My Studies. Now this is going to open in a different tab. Let me go back here so so you can see. Let me kind of expand that down. Here's my tab up at the top of the screen. I'm going to wait till you guys can see that. There you go. Where I'm on the member homepage. When I clicked on the My Studies link, it opened a whole new tab. So if you think something isn't happening, check this other tab. And it opens into the file folder page that is all about My Studies. But remember, we're looking for the screening and stock ideas. So there's that magnifying glass. If I hover over it, it says stock ideas. Now I'm going to click on that directly. It's going to switch to green color, telling me that's the active tab. And here we go. Here should be a view that's familiar to you from that previous slide that I showed you. This is the stock ideas and screening page for the SSG Plus tools. So let's talk about what's on here again. Remember, there's the predefined screens. This is kind of the easiest way of getting a screen done. I have 5 different options. So let's say I did a quality screen. Let me click on that. We see that it's processing, and then we will see a set of results below. Now, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I am showing 100 entries here. I can have a choice of showing 10, 25, 50, or 100. I like 100. Whatever I pick will be stored, and we'll come back and show 100 again. Down at the bottom, it shows me how many total. So this says that I am showing 1 to 48 of a total of 48 entries. And then if I scroll down here, I can see all of those entries. So that's where my results show. Now what can I do with those results? Well, every column is sortable. I just simply click on the column and I can sort, in this case, by company name, ascending or descending. I can sort by ticker. You probably are not going to find that incredibly useful, but one way that we find that people do find use is by sorting by sector. Let's say you want to see all of the consumer cyclicals together, or you want to see all of these companies, kind of scroll through, see how many options there are in each sector. You can do that. You can sort by industry. You can sort by company size. Now these company sizes align with Better Investing's guidelines for size of companies, where a small company is differentiated in sales by 0 to up to $1 billion in revenue in the last fiscal year. Large companies are over $10 billion in revenue in the last fiscal year, and mediums everything in between. So maybe you're looking for a large size company to round out your portfolio, or maybe you're looking for a small company to round out your portfolio. This can help. Sales growth. We can sort by sales growth. And when I click on this, I see that I don't have anything smaller than a $10 sales growth. And I'm going to go back and show you that in the quality criteria, if you want to know the makeup of these various predefined preset screens, just click on this question mark and get the definition. And sure enough, we have some criteria here that says sales growth has got to be greater than or equal to 10%. Same with earnings growth. So that's why when we sort on those, we see nothing lower than a 10 for earnings growth. So those are the columns that we can see in our results. I'm actually going to answer a question right here. It says, can I export all of these from the pre-screener or from the results section? The answer is at this point, no, you can't. But let me show you how you can go through them and refine them a little bit more. There is a search all column, so let's say I only want technology sector companies out of this. I've got a couple of options. I can search all columns and for the word technology, and I see that this will show me the sector technology, but it also shows me the word technology here, which is in biotech. That's not maybe quite what I wanted. So let me show you another trick. I'm going to scroll down, and there are a set of filters at the bottom. So if I wanted to see in the sector all the technology companies, I type technology there. If I wanted to see all small technologies, I'd go over here and type an S, which will give me all small technology questions, results, which I think was another question. How do you further refine that result set from a predefined screen? So those are pretty powerful as well. So I can see that I have 4 companies that meet my quality screen that are in the technology sector that are small. So let's talk about what we can see when we preview the data. Remember, we have 2 options here. We can start a study. A study is synonymous with stock selection guide. So I can start a study, which is the same thing as saying, I'm going to open this in a stock selection guide. That's not quite what I want to do yet. I want to preview the data. So I want to further refine or at least knock out a list of companies that may not be visually quite what I'm looking for, or fundamentally, really. I'm looking at fundamental data here, sales, earnings, and price. So here I see Monolithic Power, and if I use the forward or next button here, I'll see ANSYS. Well, that's a pretty little graph there of up, straight, and parallel. And if I go one more, I'll see the result of eGov, whose ticker, that ticker is eGov, the company is NIC. And then we have one more option here, which is Omnicell, ticker OMCL. So that's how, maybe there's one of those that doesn't interest you right off the bat because of how the fundamentals look. And that's how you can use your preview button to help you out in this situation. Now, if we want to move on and become a little more fine-grained, we can use the individual search criteria. And to do that, I'm just going to move over here to the left. Sometimes we get the question, can I use the predefined screen and mix it with the sales growth? No. It's one section or another. I've kind of showed you how you can sort and filter your result set to help you out here when you're using a predefined screen. But if we go over here and pick our own search criteria, let's say I want something with pretty aggressive sales growth, 12% or more, with earnings of at least 8%. I want to see if there's a medium-sized company in any sector. I'm going to leave dividend yield alone here. Now, what you're watching me do, I don't have to set every criteria, just the ones I'm interested in. Now, let's say I want at least a pre-tax profit trend that's stable or up, then leave it at that. Let's search and see what I get. I'm going to scroll down and see what that result looks like, and I have 94 entries there. That might be fine for you. You might, just want to go through and preview the data or filter it a little more down here. Or you might want to say, well, do any of these pay a dividend of anything? And then that gets knocked down probably quite a bit to 52. So you mix and match your criteria here. Let's say you're willing to open it up to small companies as well as medium. Hopefully we'll get a few more. And that looks like 129. I'm showing the first 100. If I want to see the next page, here's the next page button down here on the lower right. So I can click on the next, the word next here, and go to the next 29 entries that have come out of that screen. So you can be as fine-grained as these 9 criteria let you be. If you are a Canadian customer of ours, you can look for Canadian exchanges only. There's about 3,000 companies that are covered in the tools on Canadian exchanges, and frankly, not all of them, especially in the venture exchange, can be a little more volatile in terms of fundamentals. So we usually see smaller result sets when we're looking for pretty strict quality results here. So that's pretty much what you can do with all of your screening criteria or screening results at the bottom of the page.
Susie, I know you talked about it a minute ago, but there's been a couple questions, so maybe we can go over that filtering again, or that searching. So you have your criteria here, and then just say, I'm just picking one I'm looking at, say you only wanted to look at things in the credit services industry.
Okay, well, I'm looking at Canadian, but let's leave it there.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
Right, so let's go to the industry filter here. I'm going to start typing credit services, and you can see the results set immediately. Yeah, why don't we do a U.S. company where we have, let's go back and add small or medium companies that pay a dividend, who trade on U.S. exchanges, and let's look.
Because the question was, can you just limit it to only those that, are in a certain industry, or, something like that? So
yes, you can, and the way to do that, by limiting to a specific sector or industry, if you only want a certain industry, the way to do it is to filter down here. If I have a sector box up here, so let's say I wanted to do communication services specifically, then I would get a certain result set. Let's say I wanted those 12% growers in technology. We're probably going to get a few more, especially if we say they don't have to pay a dividend. So now we have a decent set of 46 results. And you're interested in semiconductors. And I start typing semiconductor, and it looks like we have 2 industries, equipment and materials and semiconductors themselves, like chips that ARM type chips or Broadcom might make, and so forth.
Okay, so hopefully that helps. Yeah, I think that helps clarify that filter. Now we do have one other question that just came in. You were talking about the preview earlier, which is a great feature, but Richard is wondering if you can eliminate any of these from the results based on a preview that you don't care for.
No, I think I'm going to say no, because I'm guessing how he would say, oh, I don't like this company, I'm going to mark it as a no. You can't do that. The way I would use this, although that's a great idea, the way I would use it is I look through here and I look for the ones I like, because that's not it, nor is that. IPGP looks pretty good, and I might be interested in that. I would just make a note of IPGP and keep that on my short list to take a look at. So Richard's question is about, hey, as you're going through, can you mark them and take them off your list? And the answer is no. but we will put that on our list of suggestions if I'm reading his question correctly.
Yeah, I think you are. It is a good idea.
Okay.
But I'm like you, I just sit with a notepad at my side and mark the ones I want.
But yeah, very quickly go through.
Get rid of the paper. Who cares? Okay.
Exactly.
So,
I think you and I
good
do this
idea,
the same
Richard.
way. We just kind of whip through here going, oh, looks decent. Maybe. Don't know. And some of them, you could tell as I was going through, were like, not really.
Yeah, no good. Okay, thank you. We're all caught up here. So.
Okay. All right. Moving on. We talked about predefined screen. We talked about individual criteria. Let's talk about the last area of great stock ideas that we can glean from the tools by using the ticker heat map. I showed you the slide. Let's do it live. All I'm going to do is click using my little mouse here and click right. This panel pops up and you'll see these 100 companies. So remember in the slide that I showed you, Gentex here was the example that I showed you. And I mouse over it. We can see there's 604 companies. Apple was our largest one, 1,096. That might be kind of small as it comes through in a webinar, but that's how many SSGs have been opened on Apple in the last 90 days. I believe it is the #1 club holding, and as people you know, are looking at and following that for their club, they'll open the stock to take a look at it. Another thing that you'll find, because this is updated daily, is that sometimes the popularity kind of moves around a little bit. So for example, T-Rowe, they presented their results today, I believe. So we might see more activity on T-Rowe price as people are looking at what the recent results are as the data flows through the tools, and therefore generates more stock selection guides that are counted. So just be aware of that. Now we see that dark green to dark red concept. Let's see if we can find some of the darkest green, something like Priceline or Gentherm. To the other extreme would be the dark red, like a Johnson & Johnson. It doesn't mean that these companies won't produce any returns. It just means they're based on the judgments that have been entered for the completed studies and the current price, that they may have less opportunity to grow. So that's a little bit important. The size box is about popularity, but the color box takes into account judgments and completed stock selection guides. And then we take those numbers in aggregate and we take the current price and calculate potential return and rank them by favorability. So they might all have a positive potential return, you know, growth in price, but some may have more than other. But you are meant to use this as a stock idea generator and you do your own research. So you would want to like pick one of these companies and do your own research. One of the things you can do, like I said, is just I'm going to click here on the THRM or Gentherm box and it will open that company. And then I can go on and do my own stock selection guide. Now another thing you might want to be able, or you recognize, is that even though the companies are popular, they might not be great. Or they might not be looking great on a stock selection guide. So that's where you have to do your own research. You're not going to take, let me show you what I'm doing here to get back to the ticker heat map. So I was in the stock selection guide. Now to get back to the ticker heat map, I'm going to that stock ideas tab over here and clicking. It's going to ask me if I want to abandon my study. Sure, that's fine. I'm going to see that magnifying glass, and here's the ticker heat map again. So remember, popularity doesn't always mean great, so do your own research there.
Susie, we have a question about the heat map. Theo's asking if all completed SSGs contribute to the heat map, or do you have to mark something as you complete the study?
Completed SSGs contribute to the heat map. You don't have to mark a specific box that says, please include this in, the consensus judgments or anything like that. We check for, have all of the proper judgments been made? And it's just an anonymous thing. We don't know who's done it. We say, hey, is there an earnings per share growth rate? Is there a high PE? Is there a high price? Is there a low price? And so forth. So no, there's no extra step there. So I could go right here and caution people that this might be an SSG they've completed as a quick and dirty SSG that becomes part of the consensus. It could be made by a raw beginner. It could be made by a real pro in our methodology. One of the nice things, so you have to take that into account, but one of the nice things that we have going for us is that the huge volume that have been completed. So let's put this in perspective. When analysts get together on a company and make a long-term projection, and Ann's heard these numbers, there might be 40 analysts for Apple who make a short-term projection, but the number of analysts making a long-term projection is pretty small. That's just not where their business model lies. I mean, there might be 8, less than 10. Where we have great statistical significance because we have a lot of these numbers coming together to make our averages. We have hundreds and hundreds of long-term estimates on some of these companies. So a little bit of pros and cons to how these numbers are put together, but great stock idea generator. And I see a question about the roster of quality tab.
I know you did. So
yeah.
I'll
it's as simple as here's the roster of quality. And if you are a user of our older desktop product toolkit, it's the same kind of screen that's included there. That's why we have it here for the SSG Plus users. It is based on a kind of a proprietary set of criteria from iClub, and just included here for the sake of completeness for those older or not older, but for the toolkit users. It's pretty conservative. We don't get a lot of results. 30 entries, and the roster of quality screen in general demands that the company has had some pretty good recent quarterly growth. So sometimes we don't see a lot of companies on this screen, and it can be pretty rough, but it works just like any of the other ones. And hopefully that helps with that question. Are there any more before we move on to some other great areas?
No, we're all caught up now. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to one of my favorite, and I know one of Ann's favorites, which is the first cut area. Here I am back on the member homepage, and in this big box right here, first cut. And what this is a list of investment ideas, but the bonus here is they come with a report and why people doing, it doesn't have to be an in-depth analysis. Some people do more in-depth analyses than others, but just kind of a first pass on why they thought this company was worth further study. That's why it's called a first cut. So think of this as a first pass on that. They will be published by email every 2 weeks. So let me show you what that looks like when it gets to your email. So let's talk about the email part first. If you are receiving these, great. You'll see an email that looks like this, First Cut Stock Studies, and it looks like last Tuesday was First Cut Tuesday on July 19th, and we see a First Cut report on Tractor Supply, on Biogen, and the last one is on LKQ. And if you were to click through these, I'm going to do that, and you'll get to open the study. you would be doing, whoa, my PDF in my Chrome is not looking great. There. If you were to do this from your email, you'd pull up this first cut stock study report and see why this person thought that Biogen was a high-quality growth company, what their projections were, and why, and then maybe a little bit of extra explanation, and a completed stock selection guide. So it's kind of all of the good things in one. And do you have any more to add before I go on to where to get these on the website?
That was perfect. People love them. I just, my only thing would be I'd encourage everybody to submit one as you're doing studies. I know people sometimes get a little nervous about, sticking their neck out there, but we're all in this together, and I don't think anybody would judge you badly. They appreciate looking at all of these studies. People love this email that they get.
It's a great discussion on paper. So nobody's, like Ann said, nobody's judging you. It doesn't have to be in depth. Just think of it as that first cut, first pass at this. Up here is a link.
I do review. I'll just say that too. I do review all the studies just to kind of give it a sanity check, make sure everything makes sense and it's lining up with the SSG. I don't make people's judgments for them, but there is a checking going on in a conversation if needed. So,
yeah, I think we had a question here about would you consider showing a buy, sell, or hold rating in a first cut summary? I'm not sure. I think it's that individual's personal preference.
But the write-up has that buy, hold, or sell summary.
We don't have a right. You do have basically based on the calculation. What would you recommend? And then this person said, based on all of the numbers I put in, it's a buy. I'm holding for this particular reason. So you get a little bit of insight into where their head was at in this process. So I love that because I've done this many times. Yeah, technically it's a buy, but I'm going to wait until the next quarterly report or, for example, something like that. So that's what the email looks like. Now, if you are not getting this.
Now you were going to tell them how they can submit a study. Don't forget.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, I'm going to go back and re-show that. So I'm going to click on the logo here, go back to our home page, and show them again. You go to this first cut section here and say, look for new investment ideas. We'll end up in the first cut section. The other way to get there is through tools and resources and first cut. Once we're there, there's a link. It says click here if you would like to submit a stock study. And you know what? It's going to bring up the instruction on how to do that. Just follow the instructions. It's as simple as that. I'm going to show them the rest of the first cut page though, where Ann has them segregated by sectors, and then also one big list. So let's take that healthcare sector. We know we had a Biogen study submitted, and here we see Biogen, and we see that the latest study date. So we have some information here that you might use to see if there's an updated study on one of the companies that you're interested in. So one of the great things that you can do is if you're studying, for example, Express Scripts or Mesa Labs, we could really use an updated study on some of these. Please submit one. If you're the stock watcher in your company for Abbott, go ahead and submit a first cut and keep everyone up to date there. So that there's a huge resource. We get 3 new ones every week, and when we look, how many companies do you think there are covered now?
Oh, I've lost track. Hundreds, 400.
Yeah, I'm scrolling down through the number of different companies that have had a first cut submitted. So you get a sense for what's out there. Now, even if they're not up to the minute studies, you're still going to find them interesting to open them up and see in particular where growth is coming from and so forth. That's why we have some of the older ones left up there, is that there's a lot, because of the long-term fundamental investing nature of what we do. You can still find value in the company analysis. So check those out if you're looking for.
I will add that we've started taking down pages if it hasn't hit any study for, I think we had a very generous 5 years. So, I mean, if you see something that hasn't been updated, like I just noticed Abbott hadn't had anything in a long while, and I know there's a lot of clubs that hold Abbott. So let's get an Abbott out there so it doesn't disappear at the end of next year.
Right. Okay, one other thing before I leave this page, before we start getting a lot of questions about, hey, I'm not getting this email, because that is the #1 way that people access this product, or this, it's a newsletter. We deliver it by email every 2 weeks. If you're not getting that email, I'm going to go back to the website. In this gray bar up at the top, there is a link to update your profile, and I want you to take a look, to click on that, and then take a look at what emails you are signed up to get. Make sure that First Cut is checked. I'll also tell you, make sure that you're seeing all your educational opportunities, your news and events, your local chapter news and events, so that you're not missing out on all these great benefits of membership. Okay. Are there any more questions before we leave the First Cut area?
Yes. Troy just asked a great one, and he's asking for permission, or is it okay to submit a First Cut entry even if the club doesn't have a position in it? Absolutely, Troy. I'm just going to answer this. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. We encourage that. I mean, many people aren't in clubs. Personal portfolios, it doesn't have to be in a portfolio. It might be something you're interested in. It might not be a buy right now, and you're putting it on your watch list, but you want to give everybody the benefit of the research you've done and your thoughts about it. So anything is fair game. So yes,
right.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to answer one more that came up about ticker heat map again. And it was, it's about popularity. 100 companies, 100 most popular companies. Size of box is how popular. Bigger the box, the more popular. Smaller the box, lesser popular. But think about it this way. We have over 8,000 companies in the database that you can study. These 100 are all technically popular. But we have, within that 100, ranked from biggest to smallest. Now the colors are about potential return on your investment, or favorability. Green is theoretically more favorable. Red is theoretically less favorable. Always do your own research. So I hope that helps with that question. And again, if you need something repeated, please let us know. That's what we're here for. Okay.
Hey, Susie, before you leave First Cut, I just want to show one other place. I know you showed how to get to the First Cut form on the First Cut page, and frankly, I don't love the way we have that set up. There's another place, and that's in Resources under Worksheets.
Okay.
And you can get the First Cut form right there, along with a lot of other handy worksheets. It's up in the middle. There it is.
Right.
So if you click on that, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see me going to the Tools and Resources tab, and less than 10 items down, there's a Worksheets link. I'm going to click on that, and we'll see some basic worksheets, and then we'll have worksheets we've used in various classes, including guidelines for beginners, and there is the First Cut form.
Right, so that's kind of a handy place. I think sometimes that's a little handier. And plus, you can look at some of the other worksheets that are up there.
Sure.
So,
okay.
Thank you for that.
No problem. Well, let's talk about one of my other favorite stock ideas, because when Ann says she's holding a Ticker Talk webinar, what do I ask you? What companies were presented? because that's one of my favorite segments. Ticker Talk is a monthly, or almost every month. I think you take a break at certain 1 or 2 times a year, but it's just about every month, and it's a 1-hour webinar, and various educational topics are presented, but at the end there's supposed to be a 5 in 5 segment, and I say supposed to be because it's like 5 tickers in 10 minutes. They can never keep it to 5 minutes, but that's okay. So out of the 3 presenters, we each come up with 2. Anne only has to come up with 1 stock idea, and they present the 5 in 5. Now if you view the recording towards the end, you can see that these recordings are great. They're, you know, chapterized, so we could go right to the 5 in 5 segment.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our...
So I'm gonna click back on that. So please sign up to attend that webinar. You'll not only get stock ideas, but you will learn some other cool things as well. But let me tell you about the stock ideas spreadsheet. If you click on that spreadsheet and open it up, and let's see if it's going to open up in a different area of my computer. I can open up the PDF.
It's at the bottom, Susie. You just have to open it.
Oh, yeah, it is opening on the other. So let me move that over. And this gives everything that was presented by year, everything in 2016, 2015, 2014, 2013. Now these are ideas that the individual presenter presents based on their own criteria, theoretically, that they are, you know, ideas that are worth consideration. They're not biased necessarily. They might even be, in very rare cases, warnings about particular stocks, but something that might be interesting for you to take another look at. In this particular case, and I think Anne would agree, you're not going to go out and buy these stocks immediately. They might be great stories, but really high priced right now. But the presenters will talk about why they think this is worth a few sentences of consideration during the Ticker Talk presentation. So please check that list out. Now let me get back to, it's by year in a PDF format. So again, I'm going to repeat that. If you go to Tools and Resources, and the second one down is Ticker Talk, if you click here, you're going to end up on this page. This will give you information about previous webinars. It will end, your next webinar session is coming up August 18th. You can register now or watch your email. That's why it's so important to be signed up for those education emails. And if you just want to look at the stock ideas, come here and look at the spreadsheet. So let me see if there's any questions before we go on. And not particularly.
Not really.
Okay.
We're all caught
So
up. Thanks.
let's go on to another area, and those are the weekly screens that we have. I'm going to go back and click on our logo in the upper left to get to the member homepage. That's how I do it. And if you haven't seen our Better Investing blog, this is how you get at it. It says visit our blog. I'm going to click on that link. It will open up a website that looks a little bit different than our standard website. It's called blog.betterinvesting.org. And every week we publish a weekly stock screen. This weekly stock screen is also available in an email, but this is usually the way I get to it. I'm going to go read the full article here, and it will tell you what the criteria is based upon. So in this week's screen, every week's a little bit different. In this week's screen, we're looking for annual revenues less than $1 billion. That's making it a small size company. Growth rate of 12% or both sales and earnings of 12% or more. R2 or R squared greater than 0.9, and that's a statistical measure. I'm going to cut to the chase and tell you that those are fairly straight and consistent sales and earnings lines. Our trends in our pre-tax profit or I'm sorry, pre-tax income are at least even, if not up. PE is less than or equal to 30, and so forth. Now, so that's what went into it. If you want to download it in an Excel file, we'll see that, and you can get that one right in an Excel file. So let's check that out here, and that's what it looks like. So again, a couple of other great stock ideas. It will also give you the screening, the criteria in that screen as well. So don't miss out on that potential screening areas. Okay, let's see. One more thing that we can't forget is our Better Investing magazine. Every Better Investing member has, let me close this out here. Every Better Investing member has access to the Better Investing magazine. Most people receive it as a print version, and it comes in their mailbox. You can also see it online. Go to Tools and Resources and Better Investing magazine, and you will see a full issue online, or you can even see the e-magazine online. If you are a member, you can get the iPad or Google Play app of the BI magazine without paying any extra money. So I went to e-magazine over here. I'm going to open the current issue. Now, our editorial staff is part of a Securities and Review Committee that picks a stock to study and an undervalued feature every month. So this is the latest magazine, and I can turn the pages virtually. There are a couple of places in the magazine that you can look for stock ideas. There is a most active there's a most active list here. I'm going to actually blow this up a little bit. And we can see the most active list. We can see the most active bubbling under list, which is the numbers 13 to 40, which is, again, another great place to look for stock ideas that you can plop into a stock selection guide and work on there. So the question was, can we make the text a little bit larger? Yeah, I can slide and make that a little bit larger with the slider there. So hopefully that helps. And like I said, most people receive this magazine via their postal post office. There's also a couple of stock ideas here that are the stock to study for the month and an undervalued feature. In months where we do a combined issue like this one, which is a June and July combined issue, you'll actually have two sets of companies, two sets of stock to study and undervalued features. So we do 24 full-blown stock ideas from our Securities and Review Committee every year for the magazine. So check those out. There on the Better Investing website, let me go through our last item here. I'm going to go back to the home page, the member home page, and we'll see an up-to-the-minute version of most active stocks. And there we go, the top 10 is under here, under most active stocks here. Okay, so we see Apple, we see Gilead, Skyworks, Facebook, Walt Disney, Air Lease. So again, a caution, when we're talking about popularity or most active, it could be that these are most active because people are selling them. It could be they're most active because the club has invested in them at a different point in time, so you definitely want to do your own research on some of these. Now with that, do we have any final questions before we wrap up?
I'm answering one right now. I don't know if you'll know the answer. Cheryl's asking about she's not seeing the current issue on her phone. I'm assuming she's talking about through the app that you were talking about.
Probably.
And it probably just hasn't been posted yet because
exactly.
This is kind of hot off the presses.
Exactly. It just came through, and we have to go through another little process to push it through to the phone app. So that should be today or tomorrow, this before Friday. That should be out to the phone app.
Other than that, I think we are all caught up. So great job.
Alrighty, let's go back to our slideshow. And a couple of slides I bring up at the end of every presentation is when we talk about tools. If you have suggestions for the tools, we do have a place for users to submit requests and for you to vote on already submitted requests, and that is at feedback.betterinvesting.org. You can also get to that link from our last tab in the tools, the Help and Information tab. On that Help and Information tab, there are also a link to our Frequently Asked Questions site. So if you're going through this and have some questions about the online stock tools or even membership and so forth, please try here to see if you can search and see if the answer to your question has already been posted. Don't miss our next webinar, which is August 17th. Remember that Ticker Talk webinar is August 18th. You could get me one night and Ann the next. You know, it's an exciting week that week. It's my birthday that week too. So watch your email for a special offer on the tools for that week. Portfolio tools, we're going to talk about how to do various functions and set up portfolios, manage your portfolios and the tools in this webinar on August 17th. Watch your emails for future announcements for upcoming webinars. And with that, we'll take any final questions. Do we have any of those?
We do not. We are all caught up. It looks like I'm just doing one quick review. I think we're good.
Awesome. And I want to thank you, Ann, thank our backroom staff, Carol and Charles and Arlene, and for all the help that we've given in putting on these webinars. Please let us know if you have any questions by emailing us at service@betterinvesting.org. And I hope to see everyone here at our next webinar. Thank you all for coming, and good night.